Mr. Malik Amin Aslam, thank you very much for granting this interview to Politics and Development magazine for CDKN and Lead Pakistan. My first question to you is that at Cancun, a green fund was announced. The question is that the world is facing recession, from where the money would come. I think it is $100 billion.
Yes. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Thanks a lot for interviewing me for this particular session. You put your finger on the right nerve, I think. That is the question which is haunting the whole climate debate. The question of the $100 billion.
And you were very vocal about that.
I was very vocal about it because I had the chance of looking at one of the reports which was financed over the last 1 year. It was a mega $1 million report, and a lot of climate experts and climate finance experts were actually commissioned to sit on that. Two prime ministers were chairing that particular committee, the prime ministers of Norway and Ethiopia, and they came out with a report answering this very question: where does that $100 billion come from? And I think that report was really a lot of crap, basically. And I looked at that report and I did a small critique of that report, which was supported by Lead Pakistan through the CDKN network. And that was, in fact, the only critique which was available at Cancun. And we presented that critique alongside the report presentation at Cancun. And it was a very effective platform, and it was very well received also. Basically what we were saying was that in this $100 billion, which was committed, and I would like to repeat this, that it was a voluntary commitment by the developed countries. So they saw it as their share towards helping the developing countries. So these developed countries said that, okay, we're going to give you $100 billion, and they said that in Copenhagen. And then the question was asked, where is it going to come from? And the assumption was from the developing country side that this $100 billion is going to be generated through their own budgetary financing. And that's usually taken up as something which is very reliable. But that was not the answer which came, unfortunately. The answer they came was that $50 billion is going to come through public sector resources, while the rest of the $50 billion, they push the buck onto the private sector. And even for that $50 billion which was going to come through the public sector, they said that they are going to link it with the carbon market. Now, this is like a big cycle going around. The carbon market is generating a lot of money, but it is generating all of that through the private sector, number one. Number two, the carbon market does not generate money for the adaptation part of climate change. Now that concerns all of the developing countries, especially Pakistan, because we are vulnerable to climate change, and we need the money, not tomorrow, not today, but we needed it yesterday to help us in coping with a crisis which we have not formulated ourselves. The floods this year alone cost us about $10 billion.
$10 billion?
$10 billion. That is the damage caused for one flood in Pakistan.
So out of $100 billion, do you think Pakistan can get $10 billion?
Well, if we could, we would be very lucky if we could do that. But I think that that is the second part of the question. The first question is that will that $100 billion be ever available to developing countries? And that question is still unanswered. And
is it just a castle in the air?
It just seems like a figment of the imagination, and it is something which was used in Copenhagen. In fact, WikiLeaks, there was a story which came out while we were in Cancun that in WikiLeaks that the US government actually used this $100 billion figure to rope away a lot of developing countries, because this was like the carrot which was dangled in front of developing countries to tell them that you break away from G77 and we'll give you part of this $100 billion. So a lot of African countries, a lot of small island developing countries were actually roped in by this promise of $100 billion. But that
nobody questioned it.
Nobody questioned it because it came out, this figure came out very late. There was no quantitative assessment done behind this figure. I mean, the $100 billion was not a needs assessment. If you're saying that you're going to give $100 billion, you should have first assessed how much does the world need. And $100 billion is just peanuts in terms of what the world needs to cope with climate change. So this figure came out, and $100 billion is by itself a big figure, because if you compare it with the ODA flows official development assistance, that's about $150 billion, which goes through the World Bank and the GEFs and the UN system. So compared to that, 100 billion is a sizable figure, but it is still peanuts if you compare it with the quantum of need of climate change. I mean, as I rightly said, 10 billion dollars is just one flood cost in Pakistan for 1 year. And we have had other climate catastrophes in this year alone, 2010. We had the Hunza tragedy, in which we had the glacial lake formation, which is still there, and the damage that it can potentially do is huge. We've had a drought early on in the year, which had its own cost on Pakistan in terms of agricultural.
So what was your point precisely at COP16?
My point was that $100 billion that was promised voluntarily by the developed countries, now they are walking away from that promise. So this report that was launched in Cancun was basically, like a castle in the sky. There was no foundation or principle. There was no proper technique used to specify how this 100 billion is going to be generated. The methodologies used in that report were all contested and challenged by the participants themselves. So these were all things which they pushed into the footprint of that report. But we managed to do a very good critique, and I think it was very well received. And the point was that when you promise something at this level, and when you derail the whole Kyoto process based on that promise, then for God's sakes, try to keep at least that promise. But that promise has still not been kept.
Okay.
And now this green fund has been launched. Now the promise of the green fund is that this 100 billion will eventually come in through this green fund. The mechanics of the green fund have still not been specified. They formed committees to handle the formation of the fund. One of them is called a transitional committee, which will go on till early part of 2011. And the objective is to finalize the modalities of the fund by the Durban meeting, which is the next COP in 2000.
So you think there is a hope?
I mean, there is a hope that another fund would be launched, but we already have about 5 different funds under the climate change arena, and all of these funds are unfunded, which means that they were launched during negotiations with developing countries. Okay, they said, okay, we're going to give you a fund, but a fund means nothing without money backing that fund.
And Malik Saab, there is another question: that to what extent we are prepared to get benefit from these funds. We have competitors, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, India are much prepared as compared to Pakistan. So what are the chances of Pakistan of benefiting from such funds?
At the moment, we are very ill prepared to benefit from such a fund. But at the same time, government is taking some steps. I mean, I'm part of the core group on climate change, which is a sort of an advisory board which works with the Federal Ministry of Environment. And in the last meeting, which was last week, I actually proposed that we should set up a climate fund of our own. Bangladesh, Indonesia, and a lot of other developing countries have used this model. What they have done is that they firstly look at the funding that is happening within the country on climate change aspects. So through the national budget, a lot of money is spent on issues which are linked with climate change. And we did a small assessment of Pakistan for the last 2 years budget. And although it does not come under the head of the Ministry of Environment, there's about $4.5 billion which has been allocated through the Pakistan budget for climate change activities, which includes canal lining, which includes, because these are all adaptation measures, which includes floodplain management.
Who is providing that money?
That money is provided by, $1.5 billion is out of that. This is just 2 years between 2007 and 2009. 1.5 billion has been provided by the Pakistan budget. So it's basically Pakistan revenues which are paying for that. And 3 billion has been, obtained from donor financing on that. And these includes, dam projects. Dam projects are also mitigation as well as adaptation for climate change. So the Pakistan is also committing a lot to climate change, but the problem is that this money does not get recognized when we go to the climate arena, because this is not capped under the climate change umbrella. So what a fund does is that it basically funnels or channelizes this money through a climate change fund. And when you say that you are spending 4.5 billion, then there are a lot of donors out there who are going to be able to match what you are saying that you are going to spend. Similarly, the Climate Green Fund at the international level is going to be matching the funds that you are spending in your own country. So it provides an opportunity to showcase your own commitment to climate change. And even a resource constrained country like Pakistan is spending a lot on climate change. That is one thing. The other thing is that you need to have the capacity to develop the projects which can which can access that financing. So you need to know how do you access that financing.
Now, who will build that capacity?
Again, for that, I think that this climate change fund umbrella should be used. That is a model which is being used in a lot of successful countries. For example, in Bangladesh, they created this fund. This was started with about, I think, $50 million. Today it has then they allocated about $50 million of Bangladesh budget money. But a lot of donors came and matched it, and within 1 year it has grown to be $250 million. And that is all spending on climate change activities in Bangladesh. Similarly, Indonesia has got a much bigger fund model. So we have.
What are the reasons that why we are so behind?
I think we are not so behind on this particular aspect, but it is what we need to be is to be at the right time on this issue, because once a lot of countries float this fund, then we will be late for it. We are not, at the present moment, we are not late for it. But I think that the way the governments work, I mean, I've been in government, I mean, they are very lethargic, very slow to react to ideas like this. So, a good model could be an outsourced model in which this part of the, the funding handling could be outsourced to a private public entity, and that in some cases can be more efficient way of handling this.
And what are the names in your mind?
Well, it could be any bank who could be a trustee of the fund. I mean, obviously, how the fund usually works, for instance, in other countries, is that they have a board of governors for the fund, and then one of the commercial entities, any commercial bank, can be made a trustee of the fund. So even this green fund is being handled by the World Bank. So the World Bank is a trustee of the green fund. Similarly, at national level, you can use one of the corporate entities. Maybe it can be the State Bank of Pakistan, which can try to be the trustee of the fund, and then that handles the because they know what finance is all about. If it is the Ministry of Environment or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they will not understand quickly what the fund is all about. So it has to be a financial entity which understands what the fund is all about.